There have been insults, taunts, and threats. The back and forth between Israel and Iran has been heating up for months. Take a look at this. In November, Israel's president said a strike on Iran was more and more likely. Then just a few weeks later, an Iranian general wished, quote, that they take that action. And then last week, Israel said 2012 will be a critical year for both Iran's nuclear program and the international community. And now there's word that President Obama is privately warning Israel about the consequences of their attacking Iran. Former Israeli ambassador to the UN and Fox News contributor, Ambassador Dan Gillerman, joins me this morning. Ambassador, good to see you and good morning.
Good morning, Jamie. It's good to be with you.
I know we have a slight delay, but let me start by asking you, does President Obama walk a tightrope here? How difficult is it for him to show the kind of support, unshakable, he told Benjamin Netanyahu, and at the same time be firm enough to leave all options on the table if, in fact, Iran were to attack?
Well, I don't think this is a tightrope act, Jamie. I think that this is a very, very clear path that the president has to take. I think that the president has to remember that Israel is indeed the only ally the United States has in this region, and maybe the strongest ally and the most faithful ally in the world. Israel has never, ever asked the United States to fight for it. It has never asked the United States to defend it. It has never asked one single American soldier to die for it, and none did. And just as Israel has never asked the US to defend it, I think Israel should not be in a position where it has to ask the United States permission to defend itself. I think Israel will do everything it can to stop Iran. We hope very much that the president and the international community realize that Iran is as much a threat to the rest of the world as it is to Israel. But at the end of the day, no Israeli prime minister has been elected to preside over the second Holocaust, and no Israeli prime minister will let Iran become a nuclear power.
There were some reports that I came across this week that said that Israel had moved some of its assets around. I'm sure every option for Israel is being looked at right now, given Iran's defiance of previous sanctions. But this new set of sanctions, is there any comfort on the part of Israel, particularly when Iran says, yeah, we want to talk? Are you pulling back, or do you feel that things are proceeding and, God forbid, a million times, Israel would be ready?
Well, Jamie, you know, I was at the UN for 6 years and I've seen 3 resolutions on sanctions, and that was as far back as 6 or 7 years ago. These sanctions have so far not made Iran detract or go back on its nuclear program. I don't think these further sanctions will. I think that the fact that Iran now says let's talk is just another ploy to try and win time. The Iranians are masters at fooling the world and at winning time. And we've seen another rogue regime do that before, and that was North Korea. And one day the world woke up to a nuclear North Korea. We cannot afford a situation where we allow the Iranians time to attain a nuclear weapon.
Okay.
I remind you, Jamie, that 30 years ago, when Israel bombed the nuclear reactor in Iraq, it was condemned by the whole world, but then it was applauded because, God forbid, if Saddam Hussein had been allowed to attain a nuclear weapon.
Hey, really quick, I just want to ask you, General Dempsey from the Joint Chiefs will go to Israel this week. What is it that you want him to accomplish with Israeli officials?
Well, there is very close cooperation between Israel, the Israeli military and the US military, and General Dempsey is a close friend, and I'm sure that he and our Chief of Staff will have very serious discussions about all the options. What we hope very much is that the US will realize that time is running out, the clock is ticking, and action must be taken. And if military action is necessary, we hope very much that the US and the rest of the world will take it, because, as I said, this is a threat to civilization as we know it, not just to Israel. But we welcome General Dempsey, and we hope very much that these talks will produce an alliance which will make sure, one way or another, that Iran does not pose the existential threat it does to Israel and the rest of the world.
The existing threat, I know you believe. Ambassador Dan Gillerman, thank you very much for being with us this Sunday morning. Eric?